So, Mr. Ryan Dank,
Hi.
we've just had the pleasure of listening to your 1 hour throwback set.
You could call it that.
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
We'll get into that a little bit more later, but we're so glad that you want to contribute with some music.
Thank you for inviting me.
Of course,
it's been a pleasure,
man.
So far, yeah.
Yeah, but let's just get right into it, because we've all been jamming here in the apartment, in the Ding Dong apartment.
Yeah, and let me just start out by saying, like, this booth is so nice.
Yeah?
You did a really great job on this one.
Oh, thank you, man.
Just for the listeners, like, he built the booth. It's custom made. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, I guess because we want to have a nice setting for, you and I. We almost only meet each other in the club, and when the music is loud and playing. So we wanted to make something that's a bit more homely and warm, and
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
I mean, also when you sent me the invitation, I was like, pretty decent.
Oh yeah,
decent concept. I mean,
nice.
Also because, as you said, most of the relations I have with people from the scene is mostly when you meet out, you know, and then it's kind of like either you're intoxicated somehow, or there's a lot of stuff going on at once, or you're playing or something like that.
Yeah, you're going to play, or
exactly. So your mind is always somewhere else, in a sense.
Sure.
Like in these kind of settings, you actually have the time and the space to get into each other. On another level, for sure.
Yeah, so that's wonderful. But it was a blast to listen to your music, like, because it was something else. And I feel like it's also something else than I usually hear you play.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was very much in doubt on what to play, and I remember I also wrote to Max and was like, because in the invitation it said like, don't bring your leave the bangers for the club or something like this, and sure. I was like, I really want to play bangers.
Yeah. Of course.
No, but I've had the intention of a similar mix like this for a very long time, and also regarding the invitation, it said like pretty clearly that I should focus on tracks that have a special meaning to me or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I would say at least all of them have some sort of meaning. Yeah. But at least some of them are like stuff that I used to play when I started playing out many years ago, like 13, 14 years ago. Yeah. And are records that are still in my collection, but I rarely play. And it was such a pleasure, like to get into that again.
Yeah,
and
I guess the preparations as well must have been fun.
It was fun, but also very frustrating at times because I mean I had a very strict idea on what kind of sound I wanted to bring, and it seemed like I was forcing it a bit too much, instead of just like letting go and finding a flow in that,
Yeah, but I know sometimes it could be helpful to like have some kind of box for your set like that, but when the box is filled,
exactly. I mean, but this time I didn't really spend a lot of time on cutting down on tracks.
Okay,
I had a hard time actually finding the right tracks for the right, how do you say, composition.
Okay,
like in total, because I wanted to the track, like intensity wise, to be like not necessarily a linear curve, but a curve upwards, you know. And I think I managed.
Yeah, I think so too. I feel like it was when I heard the like Daft Punk Homework. Mm-hmm. First time I heard that one.
Yes,
it was the same feeling that was brought back to.
That kind of makes me proud. Thank you so much. I mean, the first track, now I have it right here. Like,
let's see.
I just wanted to show this off because like it's one of my favorite records in my collection. It's Thomas Bangalter, one half of Daft Punk. And like Daft Punk for me has always been one of my major inspirations, like some of the first electronic music that I really got into. And later I found out that each of the guys from Daft Punk had each their label prior to Daft Punk doing their own stuff. And I included a few bits from both labels tonight.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So this is from Wille, and the other one is Cru d'Amour.
Okay. So there's some history behind it.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, but they are legends, and like for our whole scene and for what they did for DJing and for show.
Absolutely.
It's like it's everything right now.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's still it can still like tickle the whole of my system when I play like the proper Daft track at the right time.
Yeah,
you know,
it will never get old. It's just you
no.
can't touch it.
I mean, some people are tired of Around the World. I mean,
sure, but
makes sense. But I mean, once in a while when I hear it, I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, but it can never be really bad.
No,
it can be played a lot, but it's never bad.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, so
the inspiration for your set was kind of a throwback, of a feeling you had when you started off DJing.
Yeah, well, to be honest, when I started like DJing professionally, I was mostly playing minimal and tech house.
Okay,
and that's also why you heard a few tech house tracks in there.
Bit.
But always filled with funk, you know, in a sense, or disco or something like this, heavily sample based, or either some certain melodic parts that would create a funk vibe as well.
Sure.
But my intention for the set was actually to create like this French house vibe, you know, the French touch vibe that especially these. Especially with these guys that brought this to the world in that sense, but also like incorporate some of the tracks from the early days that I used to play that I call classics, you know.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, I mean,
it's important keep on pushing those, like, because it's
totally. And as of late, like, I mean, I listen to a lot of music and in all different genres, and I play all kinds of music. Always depends on the gig. But some of the stuff that I enjoy to play the most is like these up-tempo, really heavily sample-based filter house things, because
it's fun.
It's really fun.
Yeah,
like it's
so
a
fun.
fucking roller coster ride.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting the feeling. Like it's kind of a roller coaster.
Yeah. And it can go like many directions up and down, and also like intensity-wise, it can be lighter with a lot of disco and happiness, and it can be a bit more melancholic and hard and driving and hypnotic in that sense. So it's all about like finding the right passage through that, and
it's also like a style that I don't think a lot of newcomers on the scene really have known.
No,
because there was a time where it was everywhere, and it got a bit too much, and like it was people were they've had it.
I agree,
like, but
especially in like the early 2000s, like there was a lot of this. A lot of these beats on top of like popular music, but
that's all genres, you know. Like every genre has a peak, and then it needs to go down before it comes back. And I feel like you're bringing it back right now and showing it to people who maybe not have.
I'd love to think about it that way, and I mean, it would be nice to have more space for this kind of sound. And luckily for me, I get to play it out at certain clubs where they trust that I'll deliver, you know.
Sure.
But it's quite rare that I actually get the possibility to like do like a full-on French house set like this. I mean, it wasn't only French house, but I mean, and I could have gotten even deeper and faster, you know. But I tried to also limit myself to the format also, and also trying to, in a sense, create and tell a story with what I did.
I feel you did that pretty well.
Thank you. Yeah. That's also why I ended the set off by changing the tempo completely and throwing in a breakbeat track, you know, in the end, to kind of also showcase that this was the French part, but there's more to the story.
Oh, yeah, okay. So there's a part 2 coming, maybe?
Could be.
For next season at Ding Dong?
I'm more than happy to come.
Yeah, we would love to have you come back and show the next part of
perfect.
Of
I'll start preparing already. I mean,
perfect.
Then it's gonna be perfect until the time.
Because this was like a special mix with a special flavor. But usually, how would you classify the style that you play in clubs and?
In clubs, I would say it's always house, almost always house. I mean, as of recently, I've started going more into breaks and also playing a bit of two-step.
Sure.
Some hard groove, a tiny bit of techno, some dub techno as well.
Nice.
It completely depends on what time do I play, you know. But I would, if I should like boil it down to the essence, it's always very much based on funk in a sense.
And positivity. I can feel like there's there's like an upful.
Absolutely. I mean, that's always been a thing that I do. I think I relate to music in that sense also.
Yeah, it's a happy place.
It's a happy place, but not. I mean, I also play darker and heavier and more hypnotic stuff, but it's rare that I go towards like the more, how to say, melodic progressive vibe. If you understand where I'm going with this, because I don't want to like it's all about energy in a sense, because I mean, some people go to metal concerts to let go of steam, you know. I go to a disco party and dance my brain away, you know, like, I mean...
hands in the air all night.
Absolutely, you know, and you walk out of there with like a feeling of ecstasy, and like you've released so much good energy, you know, and cultivated that with a lot of people that are within the same mindset.
Sure.
And that's been a feeling that I always...
you've been hunting and searching
exactly.
for it.
And it's funny because it's actually started when I started listening to funk for the first time, and also jazz funk. Like,
but how far is that back? Like, when did you start DJing, and what was your first? How was your way into the craft? And
I mean, I've been a musician all my life.
So I guess you started out drumming.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Sure.
It's an easy guess. No, but I've been playing a lot of different instruments, but I would say drumming is the main thing.
Okay.
I've been playing the drums for, I don't know, 11, 12 years, something like this. And aside from that, playing percussion, playing a bit of piano, guitar, bass, singing choirs. You know,
shit.
Playing in big bands, all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
But then at some point I moved away from the countryside and moved to Copenhagen, and at that point I was very much into hip hop.
Okay.
And I already at that point, when I lived back in Svendborg, I'm originally from a small island in the southern part of
the
Denmark.
Long one.
The long one called Langeland, Long Island.
Rødkøbing.
Funny. Back then I got acquainted actually to electronic music by coincidence. Because back then I was very much into hardcore punk and stuff like that. And I remember being really young and going into a Rødkøbing Bibliotek, like the local library, and looking for some punk. And at some point, I stumbled across the CD where it said Daft Punk.
Oh, that must be punk music.
And I was like, oh, maybe, you know. Yeah. And I brought it home and I put it on, and I never heard music like that before. And I was like, what the fuck is this, man?
Shit.
And then fast forward a couple of years, because I never really got into it more than aside from the Discovery album or whatever it was. I think it was Discovery, must have been. And then, I always... Oh, I lost track. No, then I moved to Copenhagen. I didn't have chance to bring my drum set and stuff like that. But
the music.
In the meantime, I got my first turntables, and I was very much into hip hop at that time.
It was not for scratching, or
yes,
was it?
Exactly.
It was okay.
And I really wanted to get good at that, you know. And I had a lot of friends in Svendborg where I lived just before moving to Copenhagen, where we cultivated a lot of hip hop, like. I was hanging out with a lot of very nice producers today, also that are still on the scene, and
also from the island.
No, I would say. I mean, I can name drop a few. Like, shout out to Shatterhands. Had a really good time hanging out with him and listening to music. Fafalion, a short time later, who's a very nice producer down there right now.
Okay.
And,
so to get back, so you started. You started with getting a couple of turntables.
A couple of turntables.
Using them for scratching and for
scratching primarily.
Okay.
And when I started getting more into electronic music through my good friend and mentor Aske, who now lives in Berlin. We've been DJing together for many, many years.
Okay.
Like he started out. I remember the day clearly. We were sitting in Månehaven on Christiania.
Yeah.
And we sat there in the sun, and he pulled out his headphones, and he was like, I have some music that you need to listen to. Okay. And he put on these headphones.
Then you know it's for real when it's like
exactly.
That.
Like the homie, he's like, you need to fucking listen to this. No. But then he put this on, and it was like straight up electro house.
Okay.
Like really banging stuff, you know. And it took me back to the Daft Punk CD that I borrowed in the library many, many years ago.
Okay.
And I was like, what the fuck, man? This is it's insane, this music. And
you forgot all about it?
I forgot all about it, and then all of a sudden it's there again. And he's at that point started collecting records. I had a set of record players, and then we kind of just made a date to dig music. And he would come with his records, and we just started fiddling around and trying to mix, and that's basically how it started.
When did you start going out doing gigs, and like how was that transition from having a couple of record players and a mixer and some hip hop records and mixing and having a little Daft Punk vibe?
I mean,
how does that go from the bedroom and then to where you are today? Like how
it's also a long story, but to boil it down into the essence, like, I mean, we were starting to cultivate this love for 4/4 based house music, Asger and I, and I would come to Copenhagen before living here, like, and we would play like a whole weekend just playing records from whenever I entered the door until I left Sunday again, going back to Funen. We would just play and play and play and play, and we had a lot of fun with this, and we could spend hours on talking about music, talking about new releases coming out, how to mix in a certain way, like how we could progress.
So important to have somebody like that.
And none of us had anyone to teach us this, so we were kind of just trying out things all the time. And at some point, our good friend Mads, who was part of like a climate collective back then. They were throwing parties, and he asked us if we wanted to come and play at that party. And we were like, yes, let's
of course.
Go, and Christiania bike and both turntables and mixer and records and whatever, out. And then it kind of started from there. We were playing a lot of private parties in the beginning. And then at some point, my good friend Theo, at that time, he got booked for his first gig at Jingle. So that's also way back. And then we kind of got in contact with Per, who was running the place. And he gave us a slot one night, Asger and I. And basically, that's how we went from the private parties, playing a lot, and then going to the more professional scene. And I mean, we played the first gig at Jingle, and I remember coming in there really young, and like everybody was using CDJs, and we came in there with our records, And the record players, they were so dusty, and nobody's been using them for fucking ages, And I was like, well, okay, let's do with what we have. And I remember clearly, I took a USB with me, with some digital tunes that I didn't have on vinyl, but I had no idea how to use a CDJ.
Oh shit!
So I had to ask the DJ who played prior to us, like, can you please tell me how this And he was like, man, you come with a big pack of records and you don't know how to use this one? I was like, no, I mean, this is my preferred medium. So yeah, so I got the basic, like, cue, play, here's the pitch, and I was like, easy peasy, let's go. So that's basically how it started. We played a lot at Jingle, and from there we went to have residence at Jolene, Søhesten, Thomas Madvies Klub Mine.
All around Copenhagen.
All around Copenhagen, and then at some point we also got our foot in at Culture Box, and that's approximately... Yeah, when did this all start? I think I started, my first gig at Jingle was like 13 years ago, 14 years ago maybe.
Yeah, but could you maybe tell us a little bit more about what Jingle is and what it was?
Yeah, for
and
sure.
What it,
for those who don't know, of course, it was. I would call it a legendary place in Copenhagen.
Yeah,
it was it used to be back in the day was a gay club, and then it moved towards being like a more open space for everyone. But the main focus was also always electronic music.
Yeah.
And this is a very small place. It's only fits like maybe 100 people or something like this. And only like a small bar, very small dance floor. But it was also always completely packed.
It was it was the only place.
It was like the
Sometimes,
only place
that
played like the underground things. You had Jolene that did it like once in a while. You had TS Bar that was another kind of vibe. You had KVH Teen, which was also in another area, sort of
different flavors.
Exactly, but Jingle was kind of like focused on deep house and very much also some techno and like
and all the DJ veterans we know, they all started their
totally. I mean, and I also like I remember some of the names like Soundstream, especially playing in there, but also like Lego Welt. And I even remember like some of the first gigs with Mike Sheridan also. Like he started out in there and like Trandemøller especially as well. Like fucking oh my god! Like just thinking back on these things makes me shiver in a sense.
But you told me about when you came into Dunkel and you had your records and there was a CDJ that you didn't really know how to use. Is that why that none of your tracks has gone through Rekordbox? Because I'm standing here on the side and watching you play, and there's no grid. There's no like.
No, I mean,
to me it feels like you're DJing in the blind, but it's kind of the same as with records. But
I mean, I got used to DJing by my ear.
But could you tell me how what does it look like? What is the difference than what you do and then what most people do with going it through Rekordbox?
I think when you analyze your tracks in Rekordbox, like you get all the information about the track. Like you get you get key. You get the BPM. You can see the whole waveform. You can kind of see a grid if you have two players that are synced with each other that have the same analysis from Rekordbox. You can kind of like see how the grid fits to each other. You know. So in that sense, if you don't have that to look at, you only rely on your ears. Yeah. And that's what you do when you play records. I mean,
it's just crazy because I haven't seen anybody other doing it. Like it's
no.
You used to do it because there was no other choice,
other option.
Yeah,
I understand. But I mean, I don't really have a good excuse not to do it.
But I feel like you rely on your ears.
Yeah.
And not relying on a sync button or anything really. And
that's true.
That's something that a lot of us maybe have forgotten about.
I wouldn't sit here and lecture about what is the best way of DJing, but I mean, for me personally, like I enjoy riding the pitch. Yeah. I enjoy the fact that you can hear that you kind of have to adjust all the time and always be.
I like it on the dance floor as well. I like to hear the DJ have small.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny because I actually moved a lot away from that.
Yeah.
I feel like nowadays that I want to be a machine in a sense. I want to do it very clean all the time, and that's just. That's not how it is when you play.
Yeah, like AI could do the mix for you.
Exactly. But I would say it like this: many of the young people that I play with today and I watch play, like they rely a lot on the screen. Yeah, they rely a lot on being able to see what is the BPM. Yeah, where does this first kick? Where is it located? Can I put a hot cue here, right on the kind of build up to the next track or whatever, so they can kind of like they have a lot of means to get easier from A to B in a sense. With records, like it's. But I guess if you miss a cue, you have to rewind the record, and then the point where you could mix is gone. Yeah. So you have to always adjust to doing something else in the mix.
Yeah, so but I feel like maybe the new generation and me included are losing some of what was the fundamentals of DJing, you know, knowing your music and knowing that, okay, there's a build up here and the drop here, and like you would know that you shouldn't be able to see it. Like that kind of feeling, that connection to the music in that way. It's completely different.
I completely get what you're saying, because.
But are we losing too much, or are we gaining some as well?
I would say you're gaining a lot as well. But in terms of what you're losing, there's maybe some sort of intuition-based mixing that is not the same. Yeah. Because you rely on not your ears and what the progression is in the track and how you count in your head and instead of watching a screen. You know. So I think you're willing to take more chances. Yeah. Because you have to. When riding the pitch, right? So, but
it's like it's hot. The fucking
exactly, and as soon as you hear it go slightly out of
you need to be there.
You're there, right?
There's no hanging around.
No. And you have to be concentrated all the time. When I started playing on CDJs, and I actually really got into it, and I played gigs without playing records. At first, it felt a bit dull to me, to be honest, because it was easy, and also like, you just make a loop here, a 4-bar loop here, or you can change to 8, and it's just
like doing your emails.
It's sort of, you know. But to get back on the topic on what you gain by DJing in this way, is like it opens up a whole new possibility of
live remixing, really.
Exactly, and that's a funny part of it, because I do a bit of both, you know. I use a lot of loops to kind of get out of my mixes, and also sometimes during the intros and stuff like that, to create like this tension or this build-up that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do if you just did the track from A to B. You know. And also with a lot of the new Pioneer gear, there's a lot of potential with the effects, you know, like they've always been very front and foremost on the effect parts, and with the A9 and the A10 or V10, like it's crazy what you can do. Like you can create like this huge space,
and it's fun,
and it's really fun. Like so in that sense, like DJing is evolving, and I wouldn't say that either one is better. But there's a definite pro in being able to use your ears. But because someday you stand with a USB and
shit's not working.
You know, and you're like, what am I supposed to do? Right?
Yeah, but I feel like I can see that today the importance of a DJ is more about the mix and not the song.
Yeah.
And for me, it's still like you have to play great songs or great tracks.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter if you're the best at mixing. If your tracks are like shit, then
exactly.
It doesn't matter.
I completely agree. At first, I wanted to. I was only aiming for the good mix and the tight mix. You know.
Yeah, but you got to get your chops as well. Like you
absolutely. But with time, and especially listening to other DJs on the scene, and also like some of the OGs, you know, Hooney or Red Rick or I don't know, Floating Points and guys like that who are managing to play disco records in the same way that we play house records.
And play like obscure disco records.
It's insane. Yeah. And it kind of like and also being able to change tempo, intermediate, and just do your thing without it being like without it seeming out of.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean.
Out of tune or out of balance or intensity, you know. Yeah. Like to do it fluently and have this constant flow of good tracks. Yeah. Like it's so powerful.
Yeah, but that's what we're striving for.
Yeah, and all of us, I think.
I could really hear it in your music as well.
Thank you so much.
And I just wanted to touch on, you said before that you had a mentor.
Yeah.
And for me, I've always been seeking mentors.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
To get that connection, and it's like falling in love, or it's like getting a girlfriend or a boyfriend. It's like that connection when somebody is willing to spend a lot of time and to share something together.
Totally.
It can be a really powerful thing. Could you tell me a little bit more about how
of course
that started and what it did for you?
I mean, ask you who I call my mentor, because I mean he is a mentor to me, probably as well as I'm a mentor to him. You know?
Okay, yeah.
Because we started out on different levels in the same area.
Okay.
And we kind of just cultivated each other's passion in that, you know. And we found a common road or a common way to go further with it together as a unity or unit or whatever you want to call it. And I would say he was much more into like digging tracks and finding the tunes, and I was way much more into perfecting the mix.
That's a perfect mix of two people, though.
Absolutely, but we kind of took and learned from each other, and I think we managed to play together for at least like as a duo for, I don't know, 5-6 years maybe.
Yeah.
And then he kind of moved to Berlin to pursue what he wanted to pursue, and I kind of also had to reinvent myself in a way, and I've done that several times during my DJing career.
And how long has that been, your DJ career?
I think it's like in total, without the professional years, it's probably 15 years or something now.
Okay, shit. Young veteran
On
the scene.
They started calling me OG. I can't really relate to that. I'm not quite there yet.
How long have you had the name Ryan Dank, and where does that start?
It started probably in 2009.
Yeah,
that's where it started. Like it started at Roskilde Festival, of all places,
of course.
But it was Aske, my good friend, and whom I was playing records with. We had a fight, maybe like a fight for fun at some night, I don't know, and we were shit faced.
Yeah.
And he really hurt his knee, like badly, and he barely couldn't walk. So I was kind of like his crutch for the rest of the festival because I felt bad for injuring him, you know. And he started calling me Ryan as a reference to Ryan MacGyver, because I was also like always the goody two shoes fixing stuff and like making it good for everyone, you know. And we laughed about that a lot. So he started calling me Ryan at that time. And when I came home from Roskilde at some point, like I felt like it was a kind of like a funny name, because my name is Brian. Yeah. Brian Toge, like Brian without the B is Ryan, right? Yeah. So and the Dank part kind of, I felt like I needed an addition to my DJ name, which was talking a bit into like at that time, like Ryan Dank initially started as a down tempo beat down disco project, where I wanted to play like mostly like 100 BPM, like slamming disco stuff. Nice. And I felt like I needed like a sleazy name or something like a bit, and Dank is like, the direct translation is like fugty or like damp, moist or something like this. And so it kind of like it fitted well with all the sleaziness and the funk.
I see that.
And there's another part to this as well, which is about
spiritual sacrament.
You could say about like hip-hoppers using it in a similar way today. Like if you talk about dank weed, something of very high quality, you know, and there was a quality part that kind of like stuck to me. I wanted to kind of have that on my name as well. Like, so dank is like top notch.
It's nice because it feels like a Hollywood name. Or it's like,
I mean, people have been saying
first
like
and a
so
last
weird.
name. It's so nice.
I mean, sometimes today it actually annoys me a bit, the name, because.
But it will always, mine does too, and I feel like all DJs I know, there's always a struggle in like, should I change my name now because I've done a lot. So it's also
and you feel like you're stuck in this way that people are perceiving you, because of your name, and they associate you with a certain sound, and like, I mean, people associate me a lot with disco. Yeah. And I mean, I'm much more than disco. I mean, and you know, and sometimes I really want to break out of that box because I want to show people that I have so much more to deliver. But that was the name, Ryan Dank.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
but it's a fun thing that everybody feels like they're somehow trapped by their name at some point, and then they fall back in love with it. Yeah. And it's like I think that's always going on for all DJs almost, like.
Also because I think when you are kind of a performer. Yeah. As a DJ. And especially today where they put you up on the stage and you're in the spotlight and there's a screen with your name in the background and stuff like that. Yeah. You become this, how do you say this?
A product.
Yeah, exactly. Or and also like something that is being put up on a pedestal for people to look at and gaze upon and like
while
be inspired
you're choosing other people's records.
Exactly, and it's kind of like what I just play other people's music. I mean, I play some of my own.
Yeah, because you do produce as well.
I do produce as of late, not so much, but I have some things in the pipeline.
Okay, something's coming out.
Hopefully. I mean, I'm starting to wrap up some older projects and also starting on some newer projects, because from next year I'm gonna be focusing a bit more on the music that then
because I heard somebody say that you might have quit your job.
I did.
You did?
I did.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I've been working with like microelectronics for the past 5 years, making hearing aids.
Okay, yeah.
Which is kind of like a pretty big pro if you're DJing the way that I do.
Yeah.
You know, you can always get your
you can do it yourself.
Yeah, you can get your ears fixed in a sense or
That's
whatever.
perfect.
No, but I felt like I've been holding back like for quite a number of years, and kind of I was set too well in what I was doing, you know, because I established a name. My actual initial dream about going to Copenhagen and living here was that I wanted to create like a stamp, my own. I would set like my own name on the scene in a sense, and then I wanted to create something that was unique for me and create a name out of that. And it took me a very long time to realize that I actually achieved my goal. And when I did, I was like, so what now? You know?
Yeah.
And I'd just been DJing the clubs, and like people started noticing that I could do the job, you know.
Yeah.
So they started coming to me instead of me reaching out and trying to get gigs, you know. And that's how it's been for a very long time. And I'm very, very lucky because there's a lot of DJs in especially in Copenhagen.
Yeah, it's really hard to.
So everybody's fighting for a space on the scene, and I kind of took it for granted. I think you know, because it was so easy for me to just lean back and I know next month is this and next month is that, you know, and they're probably also going to call me at one point or whatever.
So what's going to change now?
What is going to change is that I'll try to pursue what many people don't dare, and what I've had a hard time like daring myself. Yeah. That I want to try to go full time with music.
Okay.
And now I do the full time because we all know that it's going to be very, very hard to kind of live off the DJing part. So it's going to be a combination of things where I do bookings, I do managing, but mainly my goal is to, because I love to travel.
Okay. Yeah.
I really want to see the world, and then I
I
feel.
know the feeling, man.
I feel the most alive when I'm getting new aspects and seeing new things constantly.
Experiences.
You know? Exactly. And if I can combine that with my passion and what is playing music, that is just like everything goes up in the right direction, right? And I think I can pull this off. I mean. Power of thought, you know, and
intention.
And also now I've cultivated my network for so many years in Copenhagen, and also now working as an artist care at Culture Box. I mean, I meet a lot of the bigger names, and
that's a pretty good idea to get in a club where they got bigger bookings, so you have somehow
you create connections all over. And you know, I have friends in Berlin, I have friends in Spain, I have friends in Portugal, I have friends in the States, you know, and it's all about just cultivating those connections.
Sure.
And trying to create something. I mean, I have no intention of becoming rich or gaining status or anything. I mean, for me, it's just enough to get by and, you know, travel and play music. That would be ace.
Yeah,
you know?
that's
so. I mean, look, I thought to myself, like, if I was gonna sit, I don't know, 15, 20 years from now, talking to somebody's kids about what did I do when I was a young boy and blah blah blah, I wouldn't be able to live with the thought of me never trying
like
to the fullest, you know, and trying to go all the way. Yeah. And you know, I might not succeed, but even if I don't, I gave it a try. You know? And that should be enough for me to
and you'll indulge yourself in music not only when you're playing in the weekend, but also on all the weekdays. And
exactly.
And I believe in this project, and I believe in you. But there can never be anything wrong in like jumping into the lake of inspiration and
no.
And just to stay there for a little while.
Absolutely. But it's super frightening.
Yeah,
it's super frightening.
Man.
I mean, I've had my share of bad thoughts and like nightmares and shit. Yeah. But I mean, I'm never going to go anywhere if I don't try something new. Yeah. And it's the same with music. Like you're constantly, as a DJ, I feel like you're constantly cultivating your sound. You're constantly moving and creating new aspects of what you like and how you perceive music, and also how you play it.
Yeah.
And if I was stuck with the minimal tech house I started to play, I would probably be total grey now, and not enjoy it in any sense,
Yeah, but you need to explore all the corners and
exactly.
get your hands dirty.
So that's the point of it, I'll at least give it a go and see how it goes. But it will require a lot of things, and one thing that is undeniable is that I need to release more music.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's gonna happen for sure.
Oh, we're looking forward to that. And I feel for the next season, we're gonna have you back and see how you're doing on this journey.
That sounds amazing.
And listen to a couple of your own tracks in the set.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
I mean, I was very close to putting one in there.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find the right space for it.
We'll
maybe
find another time for you to play.
Maybe next time. Yeah. Absolutely.
As the last thing, I would just like to know what is something that's always on your USB and that's always played. Is there a track that's the most played on your USB, or is there a record that's like the first thing goes in the bag?
I mean, now I'm looking at the smiles in the background. I mean, I have one track that I've been playing like a lot over the summer, and it's become like a thing. So when my friends, they arrive at a party, they almost expect me to play this because, and whenever I play it, I get the response that
that's perfect.
It's fucking it's really 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 nice. It's a track by an artist called Kavi or Savi. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's
but
with
it
a
sounds
C,
good.
and it's called F the Disco.
Okay.
And I didn't put it in the mix today, and that was intentional because.
Okay, but we're gonna listen to it afterwards.
We're gonna listen to it afterwards for sure.
And it's been just such a pleasure to not only listen to your music, but listen to your story. And
thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, like sharing. Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of rare that I actually get like deep down in the story of Ryan Dank.
Yeah, but it's when you're a DJ, there's a lot of people that don't want to listen to that whole story, but there is a lot of people who really want to listen, and I'm one of those people, and there's a lot of people here, and I hope out there's going to be a lot of people who wants to try to understand why we're hustling for this music and why we believe in it. And
and I will always answer questions. I'm more than happy to talk about this.
Okay. So Ryan's phone number is
Nah, I'm not gonna go there. Seek me up, we can figure it out.
Okay, sure. But thanks, man.
Thanks for tonight. It was such a pleasure.